So this is the template that I built that I screened the first 5 that we had in hand. So you're looking at 2 of the first 5. These are from MTA and Spectrum. So next slide, please, Chris. If you look here, how many of the sub-elements were graded? Well, small business subcontracting was not graded in that one. So there's 5 of the 6 elements. Next slide, please. The adjectival rating is important for one reason only, because GSA assigns a numerical value of 0 to 5 for the adjectival rating. Next slide, please. That's in section M561. If you get 25 points in 5 categories, duh, 3rd grade math, 5. 5 is your score. Anything above 3 is considered a positive and you get a credit. That's how you get your 20 to 26 points. Okay? Next slide, please. So you get a positive for each of that. So, here's where we are. We've done 5. We need to get to 15, and we probably should have some spares, because, as Chris says, when the boards, the red team reviewers go over it, we know we have to get to 15 that are fully qualified. But we're right there. We're a third done. I'm not going to do the remainder of those. That's going to be something that you take the template, fill them out for your own CPAR, based on what you know about your target domains. But right now, that's not as your target domain is not as important as getting really good qualifying projects with high CPARs, because that's how you win. Okay, next step. All right. We need 45 more candidate contracts. Then we verify automatic relevance. So they're giving us a hand up in Oasis Plus. You can be determined that your qualifying project is automatically relevant if you have a NAICS or a PSC that matches. So if you're...
Is that CPAR or can it be also PPQ?
It can be a PPQ.
Okay, so that's important.
It can be a PPQ. That's why I say the JP4s. One of the problems we have.
So that's why the matching of the NAICS code and the PSCs are critically important, because it can relevant your PPQ as automatically relevant.
Yeah, and hint, hint. If you're going to get from your prime contractor a JP3 or 4, I think it may be a JP3 in Oasis Plus, where it was a 4 before in Polaris.
Right.
Look at the domain description that's in section C and figure out what NAICS code you want them to put on your JP3 and a PSC, because after that you don't have to do the word search. Think how much simpler that will be. I know how much work it was for Polaris. It was a beast, because I did have it. So, the next thing to look for in our screening process is look for the contract primary NAICS. If it happens to be one of the ones that's in the automatic relevance, gold.
Right.
You don't have to do the PWS, highlighting, screening, indexing, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So the proof is a lot less strenuous. As I say, try to hit the easy button. Okay, Chris, next one. Then, if you got that, that tells you what your domain you're going to nominate that contract for. People are thinking differently. They're saying, oh, I'm going to go after this domain. Let me try to squeeze contracts in there. We're doing it the opposite way. We're going to find all the qualifying contracts we have and see which fits the domains best. Because we want to win. We don't want to spend time churning. Churn and rework just clobbered us on Polaris. And I can tell you my previous experience with Oasis Large Business, an awful mess. Because with 2 weeks to go, our board of directors decided we were going to bid all 10. We only wanted to bid 5. Can you imagine what a goat rope, to use the military term, that was? Sir?
Sure. Absolutely excited. Brilliant presentation, first of all. I'm learning so much. So
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's actually given me a lot of context to the work that you've been asking me to do. Right? So that's excellent. If I were to actually sort of summarize, am I right in saying that the next code is the linch point for driving the entire process?
I would dial that up from 5,000 feet to 10,000 feet. CPAR. CPAR is where the information resides, because it's not just NAICS. Next slide, please, Chris. Not just NAICS, but you can get an automatic relevance for your project from the PSC code, because all CPARs now have PSC code on them. Older ones may not, but the current ones do. So you can have a NAICS and a PSC that aren't quite the same, and you can determine that your project is relevant by either or. Next slide, please. So that gives you a second way of nominating your contract for a particular domain.
So so with the assembly of a lot of the data that we're doing is because that data is being in projects where we're involving folks like Mark or your folks. That's where it's going. That stuff becomes relevant. It's automatic. So they can go there, hit the easy button, find a matrix of a team that qualifies automatically. Does not preclude anybody else from joining the team or doing any of that, but we're trying to get the process down as simple as possible to be able to qualify us in and be able to bid, especially on programs like this.
And what Chris will charge you all to do later is to take a blank one of these without a contract number, without the ratings, without any distinctions whether it's positive or negative. You fill it out for your contract that you like best and send it in. Then it'll get into the hopper and say, all right, this looks like it's one of the 15 that qualifies, and here's the domain. So if we wind up with 10 contracts all in the research and engineering domain, guess which one we're going to bid on? And if we morph some of that to technical and engineering, because they're pretty similar, then that would be the second choice. If we found out that we had general and administrative was all over the place, that's the third choice. The fourth choice might be IT, number 8. I don't think you guys want to do logistics or facilities or Intel. I don't think the qualifications are there. But you could surprise me. Okay. So did I answer your question? There's really, the CPAR has more information, but these three things are critical. Getting to a 3+ there to get a point credit, and figuring out whether you qualify automatically, so you don't have to go through the hassle of the highlighting of the PWSs. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So you've gone around and around. This feels like it's all about names codes these last 2 weeks. But I had this extensive conversation with Chris about this earlier, right? So I'm a subcontractor, exclusively a subcontractor, not a prime. And my contracting counterparts at my primes, I know they're just flowing down what they have. And it's not always descriptive. In fact, it's most often not of my actual experience on that contract. So when I filled out the forms that, the SAW folks dutifully sent to me, I gave them what's on the 4 corners of my document. And then we went this back and forth about, hey, I'm doing, software programming, right, which would be 541-511, but my contract has 541330 or 541-715, like all kinds of random.
If you go back to the using AFTAS as an example.
Okay.
Spectrum is a prime. They're doing software programming for the Air Force, whatever, Chief of Staff, okay, for 5,000 users. Guess what NAICS code is on their contract? General and administrative.
Yeah, that management. Yeah.
There's no IT, no IS, no nothing. So, but the tasks say programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my LCAT, right? I mean, you know, it's not.
So, in that instance, if you cannot convince your prime to say that your work under these tasks falls in those areas, then we're into the murderer's row of going into the PWS or into whatever teaming agreement you have and picking out the magic words. And if your teaming or your subcontract agreement doesn't have enough of those magic keywords, and you can find them in section C by domain listed, then there'll be a struggle.
Right,
No, well,
and so
that's-
why it's relevant to me and not to them, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna get a struggle for them to change it, but then it's gonna be like, why are you changing? Because again, like, you know, it's part of a larger, like, it's Oasis tax code or whatever, like, they.
Yeah, in a subcontract
And when it
agreement,
comes to flow down, they are so hesitant to
They're
change
robots.
anything.
Yeah.
Right, and
Yeah.
I get it, right, 'cause
so
as a
my
lawyer, I
suggestion would be try to negotiate with them that they put the primary next code on their prime contract first, semicolon,
Gotcha.
however many others you want to also list.
Okay, that might be less of a struggle for them to do it, because I think I'm gonna have to educate them
Mhm.
on why I'm asking, because of these types
Have
of
them,
criteria,
have them read
right?
this
'Cause they don't
silly,
know.
have them read this silly part of the Oasis Plus RFP.
Yeah, because I'll bet, again, these larger primes, they're not involved
No.
with those other tasks, so they don't know why I'm
Mhm.
pressing for that.
No,
type of
plus
change.
the larger the corporation, and I've worked for some of the largest people, IBM Federal and SAIC and however many. Their people have this view,
Right.
because they're bureaucratic, their people have this view of the world.
Correct.
And they're not gonna wanna change anything
They don't
or
even-
justify anything,
Right.
because that makes their job harder.
Well, it's also gonna take them, you know, 6 approvals or whatever to get it, but, okay, thank you.
Okay?